Advocacy is one of the three pillars of World Vision's ministry, along with development and emergency response. And so it's critical to any response we have to an emergency. In some ways, all of us are advocates. On a daily basis, we advocate for ourselves, whether it's in a customer service situation, whether it's at our children's school. But at World Vision, we understand advocacy to really be engaging people of influence, people of power, both in the countries in which we work, as well as in global capitals like London, New York, and Washington, D.C., and in our support office countries as well. We engage them to make sure that they're making decisions that are best for the children and the families that we serve. Now, the good news is that World Vision is really increasing and enhancing its ability to ensure that advocacy is part of any response in an emergency situation. So we actually have a pool of dedicated, talented advocates who can deploy in a major Category 3 emergency. But everyone who's part of an emergency response should make sure that they're paying attention for advocacy issues. We want to make sure that the people that we're serving know their rights and that their voices are heard and that their needs are being met. So practically, what does that mean? As a starting point, we do a lot of local level advocacy work in the countries where we're already working, and then as part of our emergency response. A lot of that involves community engagement, going out there in the field and actually talking to communities, to children, to families, to make sure that they understand what they're entitled to, and to make sure that we hear and are able to give voice to the challenges that they have, and to make sure that their needs are being met. In every emergency, there are a number of policymakers that are involved. In some cases, they're local government officials. In other cases, they're people at the national level. Maybe it's the United Nations. Maybe it's the donor community. And the opportunities for the people that we serve to engage with them directly are often somewhat limited. So we're able, especially in a crisis situation, to make sure that people who are making often life and death decisions that affect the people that we serve are hearing their voice. One of the blessings that we have as a global partnership is that what happens in the field can be amplified in places around the world, donor capitals and elsewhere. And that's where collaboration and communication becomes so important. If you're in the field, you need to make sure that you're talking to the person or the persons who are responsible for advocacy. Depending on your job, it may be somebody who's based in country, it may be somebody in a support office, or maybe somebody in a global capital. But we all need to make sure that we're paying attention to what the people we serve are saying, to what their needs are, to what we're hearing from our staff, and are linking it up to our advocates. Our advocates are critical to make sure that people in power are making good decisions that are for the benefit of the children and families that we serve. So there are always needs and issues and challenges in our emergency context. Some examples may be coordination. We work in conjunction with the UN, with other NGOs, with government actors, with local community groups, some of whom are partners, some of whom are not. Donors are part of the mix as well. And so in some cases, things are not being coordinated exactly as they should. Well, that's an example of something that we can bring to the attention of the UN, to our fellow NGOs, and to donors as well. Perhaps government is not responding as it should in an emergency. The primary responsibility for responding to people's needs in any context lies with the government. The reason that we're there, though, is because in some cases governments don't have the ability or desire to respond. And so if we're able to bring out some of the shortcomings, some of the shortfalls in the government response, that can also be really helpful as well. Maybe there's an area that donors are overlooking. As a child-focused agency, sometimes the needs of children are overlooked. And so if we're able to highlight, if we're able to lift up the specific needs of children, whether it's child protection, whether it's vulnerability to exploitation, whatever it may be, these are things that we can lift up in our conversations with people who are making critical decisions. Our assessments, obviously, should inform what we're saying are most in need, as well as just the informal conversations that we have with children and with families. But it's very important that whatever we do from an advocacy perspective is closely linked up to what we're seeing from a programmatic perspective as well.